Hello everybody, my name is Amanda Zinski and I was a member of the new Kadampa Tradition, and I had the great good fortune to meet His Holiness the Dalai Lama recently with a group of friends and my husband and our daughter. We were all former members of the NKT. I really would like to speak to my former teachers, Kelsang Larchog and Kelsang Rabton, who have become, I can't really describe, they've become possessed and full of hatred. They're not the people that I met years ago. In the summer we went to Aldershot to see His Holiness speak at a little football stadium. And when we got there we were expecting some protest, but we weren't expecting what was there. And there was terrible racket all through the teaching, the drumming, the shouting, and the sound of people who really hated somebody, and that was them shouting at His Holiness. And I realised that my own teachers were outside shouting at us. Inside the stadium it was extremely traumatic because we'd all come to hear His Holiness. I'd spent years dedicating that I might meet him in this lifetime. And there we were with our daughter and all the other people, and people were crying, we couldn't hear a word he was saying, and all through all this drumming and shouting and hatred and being sent against you by people that were your Vajra brothers and sisters, that you were supposed to have been close to. And I'm very, very worried for your safety. I'm very worried about your actions, and I'm very worried about your future lives. I'm sure that when you hear me say this, you'll probably just laugh. But I mean it sincerely. I really do. I do. I don't know if you remember, I'm sure Rabton does. Do you remember my friend Kelsang Wangpo? He hung himself in his house because he was so alone and so distressed. Do you remember Kelsang Miller, my friend and your friend, who died of cancer, abandoned by the new Kadampa Tradition? I spent a lot of time with him all through his last years. And luckily myself and Carol were able to attend him the night before he died and to give him some comfort. It's not all right what you're doing, it really isn't. I totally endorse what my friends have said. We know what's going on. This has become an evil cult. And I don't know if you're alive or dead, Kelsang Kyatso. I really, really appeal to you to stop these people from endangering themselves anymore with these dreadful protests, these dreadful negative thoughts, and for them to have some peace of mind, because it can only end in really sadness and tragedy for all parties concerned. I'm just a nobody. I'm not anybody. I'm nobody special. I'm just an English woman who became involved with Tibetan Buddhism because I loved it, and I've always loved Tibet since I was very young. I don't know why, and I've always been drawn to Buddhism. I was very spiritual as a child. I was in the Catholic Church, and I left the Catholic Church still loving God, still loving Jesus, but I knew the Catholic Church was wrong. I knew what was happening was wrong, and I feel like that I had the self-awareness to know that what I was experiencing in the NKT was wrong. There were so many warning signs. I would just like to say that my path now has been inspired by meeting His Holiness. When I met him and he held me in his arms, I felt like I was being held by my mother. My mother died when I was young, and I felt a bit like the people who come over the mountains from Tibet to Dharamsala when they meet His Holiness, and they think, I'm safe at last. And I felt that with him. I really did. I didn't know what I was going to feel like. I thought I might be, very overawed. I wouldn't be able to speak. It wasn't like that. It was like going and being with your mother. He said things that I so totally concur with. I read a book some years ago written by a Tibetan monk who'd been a political prisoner in Tibet for many years. And when he got to Dharamsala, to safety, he was talking to His Holiness, and he said, at one point I was in great fear in the prison. And His Holiness said, did you think you were going to die? And he said, no, I felt that I'd lost my compassion for my Chinese brothers and sisters. And that is what I want to say to my brothers and sisters in the NKT. We still have compassion for you. There is a chance. You don't have to do this. There is a life outside. You can still be a Buddhist. You can still have teachings. No one will hold any of this against you, least of all His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He loves you and he loves us all. And I wish, as I said, I don't go on the internet, but I did write something 7 years ago to Kelsang Kyatso. I said, I wish you had never brought this practice of Dorje Shugden Dogyal to my country. We'd never heard of it. And now look what's happened. We have people turning against each other and hating each other. It is nothing but wrong. It is not part of our culture. It never has been. And now we have people turning on each other, European people who had nothing to do with this, and it's really wrong. So I appeal to you again, Geshe-la, please find it in your heart to stop what you're doing, please. Thank you.